Hi everyone. Some of you may have seen Susie last week in church. It's the first time we've seen her in one of these videos. She's Edgar's sister, and we have been keeping an eye on Edgar this week, and we have been a great time laughing at him because we've been doing some really funny things. I told him last week. Remember we did the story about the boat. Well, we told him that he was going to have to walk on water this week, and do another story about Jesus walking on water, and he has been practicing all week. So we see some of the things that we have found him doing. They're really funny, aren't they, Susie? Yep. So here's some of the things that Edgar's been at. So he's disappeared sometimes, and then we've gone and we've found him practicing his walk on water. Here he is in the kitchen, standing like in a basin of water in the sink. Found him outside sometimes as well. See him here, look. I think he's doing. That's right. Trying to stand in a bucket of water. You've got a smile on the face. And the funniest of all was the bathroom. Can you see this? He filled the bath, and there he was, trying to walk across the bath on top of the water. Look at the dirt. I haven't told Janice about that yet. So here he is back in his boat, back in the water, swimming about. Look at the armbands on to make sure he's safe. You have to always be careful with water. And going to do another story about one time Jesus, well, he wasn't in the boat, it was the disciples who were in the boat. And wait to hear what happened. Okay, so we're going to read another story about Jesus in the water from our Bible. We're going to read from Matthew chapter 14. The disciples are in the boat. Jesus isn't with them in the boat. This is what happened. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed him, he went up on a mountainside to pray. Later that night he was alone there, and the boat was already a considerable distance from the land, buffered by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come out to you in the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You have little faith," he said. "Why did you doubt?" When they climbed out into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." So the disciples were in the boat. It was dark, middle of the night. Can you imagine what it was like? And all of a sudden, they looked up and they saw this figure coming, walking on the water. They were scared. They thought it was a ghost. Of course, it wasn't a ghost. It was Jesus. Jesus walking on top of the water, coming right to them. The disciples were so amazed and they were scared. Can you imagine seeing someone walking across the water at night? They had no idea what it was. So Jesus spoke to the disciples and he said, "There's no need to be afraid. It's me." And then he invited Peter to step out of the boat, to walk on the water towards him. Can you imagine walking on the water? You imagine how scary that was for Peter, and yet there he was, able to walk across the water. One stage he took his eyes off Jesus and he started to sink, but Jesus grabbed onto him and held onto him and kept Peter safe. Jesus is so powerful. There he is, able to walk on water, and was able to make Peter walk on water as well. Edgar can sail around in his boat, but he can't walk on water. No matter how hard he practiced this week, he wasn't able to do it. It's impossible. But Jesus could do what was impossible. And so the story ends with all the disciples looking at Jesus and going, "Wow," and simply worshipping him and saying, "Truly, this is the Son of God." Edgar's learned something this week, hasn't he? Yeah, he's learned that it doesn't matter how hard you try and walk on water, you can't do it. It's impossible. But Jesus did what was impossible. Not right? Jesus, because he was God's son, could walk on water. He could do whatever he had to do. And even Peter, who was willing to step out of the boat, Peter was able to walk on water as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus. And that was one of the big lessons that they had to learn, to keep your eyes looking towards Jesus all the time, to keep your eyes on him. That means to know that he's with you and to know that he can help you because he loves you, and that when he's with you, nothing else can happen, nothing else can go wrong. So I hope you've enjoyed that story. There'll be a worksheet again on the website for you to do, and maybe you could, let's get you to maybe think about doing two things this week. Yeah, two things. One thing is you could maybe draw pictures of things that make you scared, because lots of things make us scared. So you draw some of the pictures of maybe of things that make you scared, and also could you maybe try and think about what kind of impossible thing you could do? Wouldn't it be fun to be able to send Edgar a video of you do something that was impossible? I don't know if any of you will be able to manage that. Hope you have a good week, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.